The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.
Everyone should forget the dream of my resignation. I'm here where I am, but I will go wherever I am supposed to go. This is my constitutional obligation, said Georgian President Salome Zurabishvili in a live address to the nation on GPB First Channel. Last week, the ruling party decided to impeach the country's president after Salome Zurabishvili violated the constitution by traveling to European Union countries without the government's permission. The European Union application is a serious commitment, and candidate status is not something that countries are entitled to. It needs to be earned. Joseph Borrell, High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Vice President of the European Commission, said at the press conference in Tbilisi. The governmental Stratcom released a statement regarding Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili's visit to the USA. As stated in the statement, false information was purposely spread that Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili allegedly took a charter flight to travel to the USA together with his son. There have been false claims about Prime Minister's travel to the USA, suggesting that he and his son used a charter flight. To clarify, the Prime Minister travels to the USA on regular commercial flights, whether for official, business or private purposes. We explain once again that there was a charter flight which was carried out from Tbilisi in the direction of one of the European cities, while the Prime Minister left for the US on a regular commercial flight. Furthermore, during his private visit, neither the PM's flight nor any related expenses were covered by the state budget, the statement reads. This is The Checkpoints. I'm Eleni Kvanchilashvili, author and the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to sum up the business and economics week for you. The hard work delivering on the 12 priorities is not to please Brussels, but to improve the lives of the Georgian citizens. Joseph Borrell, High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Vice President of the European Commission, said at the press conference in Tbilisi. According to him, EU accession is a national task. All actors need to be working together constructively and united. Unity is more important than ever. Before this visit, the EBRD's first Vice President and Head of Client Services Group, Jürgen Richtering, visited the South Caucasus. His visit started in Armenia, continued in Georgia, and will be concluded in Azerbaijan. The EBRD has invested over 10 billion euros in 680 projects across the Caucasus in both the private and public sectors. The Caucasus is an important region for the bank, and we are committed to offering continuous support for the sustainable economic development in the region through our investments, advisory services and policy engagements, said Richtering ahead of the visit. During the visit in Georgia, he sat before the Checkpoints cameras. Mr. Richtering, thank you for taking time and for answering our questions. Let us start with the purpose of your visit. Why are you in Georgia? This is your second visit in Georgia, right?
It actually is, and thank you for inviting me again, because 3 years ago when I was here, we also had a similar interview. I have to say, indeed, it has been 3 years. In between, regretfully, we had several crises. We had the crisis of COVID. We have the crisis of the war in Ukraine. We actually also have a war between two of your neighbors. So this visit was very much long overdue. And in addition, there is also another reason, and we bid farewell to our current head of not only the office in Tbilisi, but the head of the region, Katarina Bjorn Hansen. And we actually say goodbye to her, but we also say hello to her successor. So
are you satisfied with Ms. Hansen's job in Georgia and in Caucasus, in the region?
Actually, it is not my task to be satisfied. It actually are our clients, is the government happy. And from all the reactions I get is that EBRD is doing an absolutely wonderful job here. Not necessarily only during the last 5 years, but during all the years we have been present here. Maybe your listeners don't know, but so far in the 30 odd years we have been present in Georgia, we actually have invested over 5 billion euros in about 300 projects or so, and that does make us, and sometimes you do the bragging, but it does make us the leading or one of the leading international financial institutions here in the country.
Yes,
we're very proud of that, and Ms. Hansen played a very important role in that indeed.
Yes, and let me thank also Ms. Hansen, because she's been always very open in talking to us. Okay, now let us, you mentioned some of the major changes during these 3 years that are bringing challenges, but also maybe some opportunities, or we would like to think that there are opportunities there as well. What would you identify as main challenges and opportunities that the region is facing right now, and especially with the focus on Georgia, of course?
Well, I already alluded to some of the crises. I think 2 of the crises are still very, very much present, and that is the 2 wars I mentioned. And it doesn't help in terms of geography where Georgia lies. Having said that, and before I really answer your question, let me applaud actually Georgia, because today I'm just coming from a meeting with the Minister of Economy. Tomorrow I will be meeting your Prime Minister. It is truly impressive to see how Georgia has come out of the crisis after COVID. When you look at the current economic fundamentals truly impressive. Of course, that doesn't take away the vulnerabilities of Georgia, and I'm sure your listeners know all about that. But the current situation also, you were talking about opportunities. One of the topics which not only came up a lot here so far in Georgia, but also yesterday in Armenia, and undoubtedly will also come up tomorrow evening. I will go on to Azerbaijan, is the opportunities of, particular for Georgia, of playing an even more important role in what is called the Middle Corridor, and that is the connectivity from all the way from China, Central Asia to Western Europe, and I'm sure there Georgia can and will play an important role. For example, we talked about the connectivity in terms of ports, the expansion of your railway system, and so forth. So there, I'm pretty sure that for Georgia, there are opportunities. I don't want to make my answer too long, but another important one I should mention is this week, actually the upcoming weeks will be very important for Georgia as well, because I do believe that most of your listeners agree with me when I say your future is being seen in Western Europe with the EU. We all know about the important visit of the High Commissioner to the country. So hopefully the upcoming weeks and months ahead will also bring further clarity in terms of acceptance of Georgia to the EU.
Thank you for raising very important topics in this short answer, and I would like to dig deeper into those, if I may. First of all, you mentioned that you applaud Georgia's government. So do you think it was a right strategy to bet on the economy and economic opportunities coming from this unfortunate war? Because if we look at the economic structure, we see that Russia there plays quite a big role.
A very good question. Thank you for that. I already mentioned in terms of geography, it is what it is. We cannot take Georgia away from and Russia remains an important neighbor. Yes, I indeed mentioned that I applaud the government. Let's face it, with the current growth figures after COVID, which we've seen, and we just heard from the Minister of Economy, new impressive growth figure year on year. The fact that inflation is no longer a big issue like it is in many Western European economies. The fact that trade flows are actually growing, the fact that trade flows are actually very diversified. So it's not only going to one region. We all know that historically Russia played an important role. I believe the trade flows there are below 20%. You see that the trade flows to the EU are growing and to other countries. So I do believe that actually what the current government is doing, further transparency, further openness, further increase in connectivity, also with Western Europe, is important. Of course, with the transition towards a closer ties with the EU, probably also will come more conditions. I think Georgia has, in its history, has shown that it can cope with an increased speed of economic and other reforms. So I'm actually very hopeful that this speed which we've been seeing actually can accelerate during the upcoming months and years ahead.
Yes, my question would be how sustainable is this growth, since it is dependent from the migrants from Russia, and this is in every outlook, every analysis that you hear from any of the international financial institutions. But let us turn it into a blitz interview on SWOT analysis on Georgia's economic structure. And my first question would be, what do you think needs to change in Georgia's economy? What are some of the lessons learned from these crises that we have mentioned?
Look, it's not for me to actually tell your government what the government needs to do. As I already mentioned, I think the government is on a good path. Having said that, Georgia was, let's call it, a poster child in terms of economic reforms for the region and beyond 20 years ago or so. I think there is a possibility that if the government takes its eyes off the ball, that advantage actually is lost. Hence, I mention again the importance of actually the closer ties with the EU, because then there is this pressure also coming from the EU to actually increase the speed of the economic reforms. And beyond that, of course, we also need political stability. I think next year you have some very important elections coming up. I think it's very important that these elections will be free for all parties there. But I'm confident that given the history of Georgia, that actually will happen. And of course, we as EBRD, we are not a political party, but if we can help a government, in this case, this government, on this path towards transition, then we're very, very pleased to do that.
How can EBRD help?
Actually, we have done this over the past 30 years.
But now you have the new strategy for Georgia. That's why my question.
It is a new strategy.
Approaches
it is a new strategy indeed, but to be honest, our strategy is always helping a government achieving its strategy. Of course, you see that over the past years, 5 to 10 years, things have shifted. I think where 10 years ago, if I would have been at EBRD and you would have been in this job, and maybe you were, the word renewable energy probably wouldn't have come up that much. So in the discussions also over the last few days in Georgia, in Armenia, and also in Azerbaijan, the focus also from EBRD will be more on a green economy. As you might know, EBRD in its totality actually has a goal of having a minimum of 50% of all our projects need to have a green angle. We set ourselves that goal a few years ago in 2025. I can tell you that the last 2 years already we achieved that. And we also did that in Georgia. So when you see the number of increasingly green projects coming out of the country, truly impressive. Then also we're helping the economy further with trying to increase the resilience. I think there also Georgia is on a good path. And I would like to highlight again what I said earlier, something which you're doing very well, the resilience of the economy and the diversification, and perhaps something which is not necessarily in our strategy per se, but we've seen in all the economy how important a strong financial sector is. And I would like actually also there to put a tap on the shoulder of your two very strong banks, TBC and Bank of Georgia, both of them very important partners for us, both an example not only for Georgia, not only for the region, but beyond. And we've seen the value of a strong banking system, actually particularly in a situation of crisis. So we continue to also to support your banking system, always with the aim to actually particularly to target your medium and smaller enterprises, because EBRD, we might be large in many aspects, but we don't have the branch networks and the clients like your banks have. So we actually use them also as some kind of a vehicle to use that.
So, yes, you mentioned middle corridor. Is this whole buzz realistic? Is it a bankable project? How does EBRD see that?
Well, the middle corridor doesn't contain of one project. We actually, as EBRD, we actually just financed a feasibility study. Feasibility, is it feasible to actually further invest in the middle corridor? This was a feasibility study particularly focused on Central Asia, in this case Kazakhstan and beyond, because middle corridor is not just Georgia, it's not just Azerbaijan, it is actually the whole route from China to Western Europe. The investments are enormous, but we believe at this point in time, this is probably for all parties, this is, we need to invest in this also to make this a very safe and long-term sustainable route. Having said that, middle corridor, you know, we all remember the Silk Route. The Silk Route doesn't mean that there was only one Silk Route, there were many Silk Routes. So having a middle corridor only looking at Georgia probably would be wrong. Maybe if I may add one last thing, middle corridor is one of these opportunities for Georgia, where I still remember when I arrived at EBRD, we talked about Anaklia port, the seaport. At that point in time didn't happen because there were question marks about its feasibility, particularly about the feasibility, can it exist next to Poti? I think 5 years on, given the current situation, I think many more people are now convinced that actually both projects can coexist. We're actually currently now also talking to your government, how can we support one port, both ports, the connectivity to the ports, because a port by itself is meaningless if you don't have a good railway system or good infrastructure, roads. So these are all opportunities which Georgia has.
Yes, you remember our first interview, and it was in 2019, and that's what you told me. We announced that we are ready to participate in the Anaklia project if we find a commercially viable solution. Do you have an idea what a commercially viable solution might mean at this point, and does this idea or the potential of the middle corridor that we talked about help to this situation?
I think now 4 years on, the situation is indeed a different one. The fact that you're doing your homework very well,
Thank you.
It shows, but indeed the fact that I added it at that point in time to my answer means that at that point in time, we did have a question about was it commercially viable? right now, and this is not shouldn't be a question to me, it should be a question to your government. The government has made certain changes. The structure will be very much a different one. There is a potential interest from parties. The government will very soon disclose within still this month what the situation is. But yes, the middle corridor can and does play an important role.
This question came to you because you told me in 2019 that you told the Prime Minister that if the commercial market loss cannot be eliminated, EBRD, being a development bank, is ready to play its part in the implementation of its important project. Do you see it more clearly that EBRD's involvement might be needed into this project? And would, for example, the new circumstances that Chinese investors are interested in developing this project, that Kazakh investors are interested in developing this project, remembering what was the situation around the Anaklia port, US officials saying that Georgia should restrain itself for Chinese investments. I mean, there is a very big picture around Anaklia project. So that's why my question comes to you, Mr.
If strong private sector companies do believe in the project and are willing to invest in this, we are open as EBRD to support it. These projects, they're so enormous that undoubtedly there will be the question of who will take the lead in financing it, or not necessarily we always need to take the lead. We're also happy if other people take the lead. But if we can play a role in that, we certainly will do so. And then, if I may add, you mentioned the meeting with the Prime Minister. Luckily, I haven't had that yet, so I cannot comment on any meeting at this point in time.
Oh no, it was in 2019.
Yeah, but tomorrow I will have the meeting with the Prime Minister, but it will be a completely different discussion and a different situation.
But Anaklia will be on the agenda of this discussion?
If the Prime Minister puts it on the agenda, I'm sure we will discuss it.
Thank you so much. Also, another big project, it is a Black Sea cable project. Do you see the future for this project? Because the need is there, of course.
We did discuss many large projects. The Black Sea submarine cable project did come up, but at this point in time, I don't have enough details to actually comment on any specific question.
And Georgia is financing and working with the Italian company Chessi to have the feasibility study in place.
I guess you have to ask that question to Georgia.
Yes, of course. I'm not asking. That was my comment.
Okay.
That was my comment. And also, you mentioned the EU candidate country status. Mr. Borrelli's visit in Georgia, would this status add to the competitiveness of Georgia? You knowing the logic of European investors, would that boost that competitiveness not only on the political space, but also on the investment space as well?
It's a very interesting question. It's also not an easy thing to answer, because this came up also in some of the meetings today, and also within your government, that they see the advantages of belonging to the bigger EU family for many, many reasons. But I think it was always stressed that some of these advantages, they will become much clearer long term. It could very well be, I'm not saying it is, but it could very well be that some of the necessary reforms which are needed, which undoubtedly the EU puts on the table as a condition for the next step, that some of them might well be in the short term hurt. Some of the competitiveness in certain sectors, etc. But I'm very much convinced that the EU as a market has shown its value. you will become part of a much larger family. It will open markets, but by itself that's not enough. We have other countries in the EU which are more successful than others. So EU accession is needed, but the continuous what the government is doing in terms of political stability, economical stability, geographic stability, that is also will all be a factor for any private investor to actually come into this country. Having said that, and as a little footnote, last year has been one of the most successful years in terms of foreign direct investment for the country. So also there you have shown that you can do it.
Thank you so much for a very interesting interview.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
To follow up on the Middle Corridor potential, in August, EBRD assessed the opportunities for Central Asian countries to participate in the regional value chain within the Trans-Caspian International Transport Road Middle Corridor, TITR. According to the EBRD, with its two-layer catchment area, 300 kilometers to the north and south of the Central Trans-Caspian Corridor, the CTCN spans all major economic and population centers in Central Asia and ensures connectivity within the region and with Europe through key transport network links. The CTCN has the greatest potential for further development, as it allows not only for transport network development but can also support regional development in Central Asia, according to EBRD. This region has an extensive transport network which can serve as the basis for further regional cooperation and coordinated project implementation. In Kazakhstan, two sectors with the highest proportion of non-domestic and non-regional value added in gross exports are wood and paper and petroleum and chemical products, 30% and 25% respectively. The Tara Special Economic Zone, located within the catchment area of the CTCN, is focused on the production of new chemicals, a promising area for the country's integration into global value chains. Aktau Seaport, one of the two Kazakh exit points on the Caspian Sea, and the associated says are important for overall exports as well as the export petroleum products. The development of the CTCN could play a significant role in economic development, as 7 of the country's 13 CEZ are within the primary catchment area of the CTCN, including the CEZ focused on textile processing and petroleum chemistry, tourism and mixed production and information technology development. The Kyrgyz Republic has the greatest degree of integration into regional and global value chains despite its small economy. This is mainly down to the country's relatively more liberal trade regime. The share of external value added in total exports is as high as 55% for wholesale trade, indicating significant integration into value chains. Also, export services such as construction, finance and hospitality make up 20-30% of external value, providing some bright spots for further integration. The top 3 regions by industrial production in the Kyrgyz Republic are Chuy, Isyk-Kul and Jalalabad, all within the catchment area of the CTCN. In this respect, developing the CTCN creates an opportunity for the country to facilitate economic diversification and development should railway connectivity with the Kazakh and Uzbek networks be improved through the modernization of the Lugavoya, Almaty and Osh-Andiyan connections. In addition, the development of a multimodal approach would facilitate efficient storage, sorting and distribution activities in major production centers. This is EBRD's analysis. According to the EBRD, in Tajikistan, integration into global and regional value chains is very limited, accounting around 5% of the best performing sectors. This is also a reflection of the country's relatively low industrial production, with the main industries being aluminum processing and chemical chemical production. In addition to heavy industry, agriculture is important for the economy. Tajikistan's top manufacturing companies are generally located in the western part of the country, with the largest companies in the capital, Dushanbe, within the catchment area of the city. And the city is connected by east-west road and rail infrastructure towards Uzbekistan and into the rest of the country. Improving rail connectivity with Uzbekistan, investments to increase speeds on the railway network and enhancing custom services would lower transaction costs and facilitate integration into cross-border production chains. In Turkmenistan, non-gas and non-oil exports constitute a very small portion of the overall trade structure. However, despite their small volumes, transport equipment, electrical and machinery goods, and agriculture are key sectors that could offer opportunities for further integration into global and regional value chains, as somewhat higher non-domestic value added can be observed in exports of these products. The main manufacturing industries include cotton processing, chemicals, and construction, including cement factories located in the regions of Balkan, Libab, and Ashgabat. While these regions are outside the direct catchment area of the CTCN, ensuring smooth connections to the country's Central Asian neighbors by improving key transport links would facilitate the main economic producers' integration into regional value chains. This is again EBRD's analysis. Uzbekistan has been the least integrated Central Asian country in terms of global value chains. However, this is expected to change in light of recent liberalization efforts. The top industrial producers are located in Tashkent, including Tashkent City, Aliyan, and Navoiy regions, all within the CTCN catchment area. The Tashkent region's top industries include agriculture, energy production, mining, metallurgy, fertilizers, chemicals, electronics, textiles, cotton processing, food processing, and footwear. The region and the capital are well connected by both rail and road infrastructure. The Navoiy region is a mining area with significant activity in natural gas, petroleum, metals, construction materials, and gold. The Aliyan region, located in the easternmost portion of the country bordering the Kyrgyz Republic, is Uzbekistan's third top producing region, with petroleum, natural gas, metals, processing, chemicals, light industry, food processing, and agriculture. Because of its varying production patterns, as well as domestic and international connections, further improvements to assets and network rehabilitation in tandem with a structured multimodal and intermodal approach would facilitate the country's integration into regional and global value chains, the EBRD said. This week, one accent in context of the Middle Corridor came from the ambassador of China as well.
Without China and the EU, there will be no success for Middle Corridor. Why? Because what's the importance for Middle Corridor is that the logistics between China and Europe, that the manufacturing power and the goods provided from China and the consuming market is in EU. So it means that without support, China and the EU, no success of Middle Corridor. And in fact, I get some information that the EU is very, I think, active and positive for the Middle Corridor. So I think it's another important platform for China-EU cooperation. And so no problem for the EU, I think, perspective for the Georgia, maybe on the contrary. I think that, generally speaking, for the all of the infrastructure projects along the Belt and Road and Middle Corridor will be interest for the I think Chinese companies and the Chinese enterprises. So if we have good conditions, I think it's no problem for the Chinese companies to be involved in the construction of the Anaklay Port or other projects.
We will be covering this topic more extensively in coming programs as well. And now, how did business perform this week? With this week's news and outlook, on to Natia Taktakishvili.
Hotel complex Lopota Spa Resort is expanding. According to the current plan, new infrastructure will be added to the territory of the complex by 2024. It's planned to open an additional hotel building, bowling, billiard, jazz club, brewery, restaurant, and water park. According to the financial report 2022, construction process is actively underway. The document reads that in 2022, 46% of hotels guests via Georgian and 54% via foreigners, 28% of foreigners via visitors from Saudi Arabia, 5% accounted for Russia, while 4.5% via gas from Israel. In total, the complex hosted 86,000 guests in 2022. The average annual occupancy of the hotel rooms stood at 53%. As for the financial rates, last year the consolidated income of the hotel complex increased by 7.1 million lari and exceeded 32.2 million lari. LLC Lopoto Investment is 100% shareholder of the complex. SRG Real Estate, holder of Radisson Hotels, published a financial report for H1 2023. According to the document, the income of the group amounted to 115 million lari, while the figures stood at 112 million lari in the same period of the previous year. The financial report reads that about 61% of the total revenues accounted for the gambling business, while 34% hotels and 5% is other income. The group owns and manages Radisson Blu brand hotels in Tbilisi and Batumi, Radisson Collection and Park Hotel Tsinandali, as well as casinos in Tbilisi and Batumi and the Complex Republic. The group has recently started renovating the former Telegraph building in Tbilisi in order to turn it into a 5-star hotel, which will be managed by Silk Hospitality. Antre Bakery chain is expanding in London and has launched chain's fourth bakery on Kensington Street. According to Lika Mikautadze, head of marketing department, Antre invested 300,000 Great British pound in the expand. A new branch in London on Kensington will open late in October or early in November. We will employ 8 people. The investment amounts to 100,000 Great British pounds. Our focus is unchanged. We unite Georgian and European culinary cultures, noted Lika Mikautadze. According to the head of the company's marketing, Antre will open its 15th facility on Ksanisi Street this year. Antre continues to expand its chain in 2024 as well and plans to open 2 facilities in London. Antre currently operates in 3 countries, which 14 stores are located in Tbilisi, 7 in Baku and 3 in London. Hotel Postomestia, located in Svaneti, declares that the hotel worked with 80% load in July-August, but the rest of the month failed. As Guanța Paliani, administrator of Postomestia, told BMWG, their guests included both local and foreign tourists from England, Israel and Germany. According to her, Russian tourist share was relatively low. Paliani declares that the main challenge for attracting tourists to Mestia is still damaged roads as for other communications. There was uninterrupted electricity and water supplies throughout the summer. According to her, the accommodation prices in Postomestia did not increase compared to the previous summer, and average cost of a double room stood at 350 lari. Sazanos Wine will open a hotel in the village of Sazano in cooperation with Bank of Georgia. The total cost of the project amounts to 6 million lari, of which Bank of Georgia's investment totals to 2.5 million lari. The current project involves construction of a 31-room hotel on the land area of 5 hectares. After the opening, the hotel plans to employ 30 people. Hotel Sazanos Wine combines different types of rooms, several restaurants, recreation and children's entertainment spaces. As part of the project, old houses were rehabilitated. The hotel is the first in the municipality that will receive both local vacationers and foreign visitors and entertain them with American cuisine. The hotel business is one of the priority sector for Bank of Georgia. That's why the bank has been supporting the development of the mentioned sector for many years, and with our support, many projects have been implemented both in Tbilisi and the regions. We are happy to cooperate with Sazanos Wine, and we are proud to be supporters of this important project, said Valery Narsia, Deputy Director of Corporate Customer Service Department of the Bank of Georgia. A new raspberry snack appeared on the Georgian market with the cooperation of berry-producing farms Agrostone, Siamo and P&K Berries. Director of AgroStore, Zurab Alavitsa, talks about the new project with BMWG. Our product is healthy. We dry the product at a low temperature. We expel the active water, which allows us to use the obtained product for 1 year, both as a snack as well as in cooking and confectionery, says Zurab Alavidze. According to the co-founder of Siamo, raw materials for the snack come from the berry plantations of two companies where Swiss and Italian varieties of raspberry are grown. As for the exports, the company has already begun to exploit the US market. According to Zurab Alavidze, the samples has already been sent to several countries. The snack appeared on the Georgian market only a few weeks ago. As for the selling price in the local market, according to the AgroStore director, the price of the kilogram will be within 260 lari, although the product will be sold in 100 or 200 gram packaging. A hotel complex with a different concept, Koevrebi, was opened in Shalauri village, Kakheti region last week. The total complex includes 20 quarry-shaped rooms as well as the main hotel building, where 70 rooms are located. The hotel can accommodate about 75 guests at the same time. The co-founder of the hotel, Georgi Kldiashvili, declares that they have invested about 10 million lari in the project, including both personal investment as well as bank loan. According to Kldiashvili, they also cooperate with Enterprise Georgia and EBRD. This time, the tourist facility combines a restaurant, a bar, a conference space, and open pool and lounge. The four partners started the construction of Koevrebi back in 2019. However, the pandemic, then the war in Ukraine prevented this time completion. Nestlé increased its income and profit in Georgia. Nestlé Georgia, a subsidiary of French company, ended 2022 with a 28% increase in total sales. The company's assets were 93.2 million lari. Net assets increased by 33.1%, amounting to 71.1 million lari. The company's management report revealed that the major growth accounted for the confectionery, pet care and baby food. In 2022, the company received a profit of 12.203 million lari and significantly improved its operational results compared to the previous period. Nestlé is the world's largest food and beverage company with more than 2,000 brands ranging from global icons to local favorites, and are present in 190 countries worldwide.
The five-star hotel located within Orbi City has entered the final stage of development. Meanwhile, the sales in the last hotel block have begun. In the next 2 months, the company allows interested parties to buy an apartment in Orbi City for $23,500 Within the same promotion, the price for fully furnishing the apartment is set at $190 per square meter. Georgi Sakadze discussed the details with the company's CEO, Irakli Vergelidze. Let's watch the interview.
During the numerous interviews we've had over the years, we have not talked about Orbi's milestone and, in my opinion, the most terrific project, the Orbi City. I understand that it has entered its final stage of development and want to discuss it with you. Where are we now and what are you proposing to your partners?
I just thought about it, and you're right. We've never talked about Orbi City. Yet it is one of the most exemplary projects not only for our company but for the city, region and the country. It is a large and magnificent five-star complex, the development of which, as you rightly mentioned, is on the final stage. The infrastructure encompasses 200,000 square meters, a large area for Georgia. It encompasses virtually every service area that a visitor, be it a tourist or a guest, would require in Batumi. There is shopping mall too, the construction of which is ongoing. Dining services available on the territory of our complex provide tastes of virtually every cuisine. There are recreational areas and even a spa.
Does this entail that one would need to leave the complex only to see sights?
We could say that, yes. Orbi City, conceptually, is a city within a city. It is a city that allows the person to receive all the experiences such as recreation, dining, shopping and sports in one place.
The pictures that our viewers are seeing at the moment Irakli is the construction of the third or the last building block It's ongoing now, right?
The largest part of the apartment complex is already finished, and now we begin constructing the hotel. With the sales launch, we have an interesting and viable proposition for our clients who can acquire an apartment in our complex for only $23,500. I'd like to add that if the client wants to buy a fully furnished apartment, the price per square meter would be $290. Let's conclude. Orbicity is the largest five-star complex that encompasses the infrastructure spanning across 200,000 square meters, including all the services such as recreation, dining, shopping and sports in one place. Given that we are on the finish line and the building block is the last in our complex, we would like to allow our clients to acquire an apartment for $23,500. The offer stands until October 20th. In addition, fully furnishing the apartment will cost $290 per square meter.
Irakli, there are two questions I'd like to ask you. The first concerns the end date of the construction, while the second requires some level of detail. How did you come up with this price?
It is very right to discuss the price. The price that we are offering to our clients with this opportunity is lower than the actual price that these properties will be valued at after the 21st of October. The price we're offering now is $700 lower than the retail price.
After October 21st.
After October 21st, the price will increase by $700 per square meter, while the price for the whole apartment will exceed $40,000. For us, the most important part of this promotion is accessibility, allowing people to purchase a property in this unique development project. We would like our clients to own a fully furnished apartment, which is not only a perfect place to go on a vacation, but also generates a steady stream of income. The project will be completed by the end of the next year. It includes the construction of the last hotel block and infrastructure. Thus, there will be a fully fledged city within a city whose conceptual vision revolves around open spaces. The infrastructure is not closed. There are open and covered streets allowing people to move around, have fun, shop and dine freely outside, even when it's rainy.
Are there any promotions regarding the payment installment for an apartment in Orbicity?
Yes, Georgi, apart from the fact that the price is magnificent and affordable for interested people, we've decided to simplify the payment process even further to make the proposition more appealing to our potential clients. We do not require the buyers to pay in full in advance. The contract is signed with the first installment of $3,500, after which the person becomes the owner. The reallocation of the leftover sum depends on the client. They could divide it for 2, 3 and 5 years.
And this will be decided through negotiation with the company?
Yes, we don't require collateral. It is an opportunity that Orbicity provides to its clients.
Including the company-tied loan, right?
Yes, the company-tied loan is one of the many opportunities. We provide simplified access to credit as well. The most important point is that through this proposition, the client could choose the time frame of the credit.
Let's recap. Until the 20th of October, interested parties could buy an apartment for $23,500. Meanwhile, Orbi Group allows its future partners and beneficiaries to fully furnish the apartment for the additional price of $290 per square meter.
It includes absolutely everything. You're right.
Irakli, let's say it one more time. After October 21st, the price of these properties will
increase to $42,000,
representing an increase of $700 per square meter.
Yes, an increase of $700 per square meter. We would like to allow our citizens, our potential clients, to acquire an apartment in this unique project at such an affordable price. It is determined by the fact that our project has entered the final stage of development and that the city, the region and the country will receive another unique development project.
By the end of the next year?
Absolutely.
Good luck to Orbi Group. Thank you for your time, Irakli.
And let us close up with this week's economic news and outlook.
Josep Borrell, High Representative of European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and Vice President of European Commission, declares that the European Union application is a serious commitment and that candidate status is not something that countries are entitled to. I want to be very clear, in that important moment, the European Union's door is open to Georgia and European Union is committed to supporting Georgia on its path towards European Union membership. The door is open and we want to support you on the way. But I have to say also that European Union application is a serious commitment, and that candidate status is not something that countries are entitled to. It needs to be earned. It needs to be earned through serious reforms, adherence to the European Union's values. And to be frank, there is still quite a bit of work to be done, said Josep Borrell. Georgian President Saule Zurabishvili said everyone should forget the dream of her resignation. I know what sort of future you want for Georgia. I know that the solution to all the problems facing the country today, be it corruption, outflow of people, or uncontrolled entry of Russians into this country, will be solved but dealt with step by step when we join the European Union. This is our sole perspective. That's why I'm not leaving. That's why I'm traveling to EU nations. I have visited Berlin, Brussels, Paris. I use my contacts and trust in me. But first and foremost, trust. If you don't come out and show the rest of Europe how important this prospect is to you, I would not have had such confidence. When I meet different leaders, they know that you choose me and you choose this perspective, and you choose this perspective and this future, declared the president. Last week, the ruling party decided to impeach the country's president after Saule Zurabishvili violated the constitution by traveling to European Union countries without the government's permission. The foreign direct investments in Georgia amounted to $505 million in Q2 2023, up 22.9% from the adjusted data of Q2 2022, according to the National Statistics Office of Georgia. As of the document, equity is down 23.3% from the adjusted data of Q2 2022 and amounted to $72.9 million, which is 40.4% of total foreign direct investment, and reinvestment amounted to $422.5 million. The share of reinvestment is 83.5% of total FDI. The United Kingdom reaching $168.3 million in Q2 2023 was major foreign direct investor in the country. Turkey was the second with $71.0 million, followed by Netherlands with $72.7 million. The share of five largest investor countries is 78% of total investment. The largest share of FDI was registered in the financial and insurance activities sector, reaching $255.7 million in Q2 2023. Energy sector was the second with $137.2 million, followed by manufacturing sector with $75.6 million. The country is getting stronger, developing, getting richer, and it needs to be maintained. This did not happen by chance. This is the result of our right policy. All this needs to be maintained and strengthened even more, the Prime Minister of Georgia, Irakli Ghadbashvili, said at the government session. According to him, the level of unemployment and poverty in the country has reached a historical minimum, and the country's reserves are at historical maximum. High economic growth continues. In January-July, our economic growth is 7.2%. Also, it must be said that we have taken quite effective steps to regulate and reduce inflation, and 0.9% is inflation in August, which is certainly a great achievement, while it remains a challenge in Europe, America, and the whole developed world with high inflation and high prices, said the Prime Minister. We developed a draft law amid increasing fines for construction without permission or in violation of permit condition in cultural heritage protection zones, and sent it to the parliament for approval, Tbilisi Mayor Kakha Kaladze announced at the meeting of capital's government. According to the proposed law, fines for violations in Class 1 and 2 areas will increase approximately threefold, while fivefold in Class 4 and 5. Kaladze emphasized the importance of preserving the city's appearance and historical monuments while supporting responsible business practice, the existing sanctions in some cases didn't prove to be deterrent level for some construction companies, and unfortunately we still face similar types of violations. Based on the above, we think the sanctions for construction violations in cultural heritage protection zones should be tightened, Kakhakhaliadze said. He expressed gratitude to Parliament for its cooperation in this matter. The Georgian government has initiated the rehabilitation of Tel Aviv airport with plans to create new terminal infrastructure and extend the runway, Vice Prime Minister Levan Davitashvili stated following a cabinet meeting on Monday. The project aims to establish direct connections between Tel Aviv airport and Kutaisi, Ambroulauri, Batumi and Mestia airports. Davitashvili explained that the project involves the establishment of new terminal infrastructure at Tel Aviv airport, a complete renovation of extension of existing runway to 1.7 kilometers, the installation of modern navigation systems and construction of a new navigation tower. The goal is to make the airport operational and capable of serving passengers by 2024, he added. In July 2023, construction cost index increased by 1.6% compared to the previous month. The change was mainly due to a 6.3% increase in average monthly nominal wages of employees in the construction sector, which contributed 1.28 percentage points to the total index change. Compared to February 2020, the construction cost index increased by 9.7%. The latter was largely caused by the 26.1% increase in average monthly nominal wages of employees in the construction sector and by the 5.7% increase in the price of construction materials, which contributed 5.78 and 3.70 percentage points to the total index change, respectively.
That's all for today. We will meet next Sunday, 11 a.m. sharp. Take care and keep checking out BM.G.
The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.